I married a crazy wife and gave birth to a crazy daughter. The mother and daughter are obsessed with testing my love for them. They even hired a man to come home, pretending to pamper him endlessly, just to see me get jealous over them, to watch me suffer. Every time they see the pain in my eyes, they would hide in the shadows, trembling with excitement down to their fingertips. I know their game, but I never exposed it. I just silently played along with their ridiculous act. Until that day, Ji Mingxuan and I were both injured by a falling object. We were taken to the hospital together. The doctor announced with a serious expression. Both patients' arms are severely shattered. But right now, there's only one doctor who can perform this restorative surgery. Whoever goes second has a very high risk of permanent disability. In my hazy consciousness, I heard my daughter Su Yi's young but cold voice. Mom, let's save Uncle Ji first. If Dad's hand is crippled, he won't be able to go out and hold piano concerts anymore. That way, Dad will have more time to spend with us. Don't you want to be able to see Dad all the time, so that his world will only have us in it? Su Menjiao was silent for a long time. Finally, she opened her mouth. Save Ji Mingxuan first. In that moment, I felt like I was struck by lightning. I never expected that. My endless tolerance would only be met with their escalating cruelty. I slowly closed my eyes. My last thought was that when I woke up, this mother and daughter pair, I wouldn't want either of them anymore. After I woke up, the doctor told me the surgery was performed too late. My hand would never fully recover. My piano career was completely over. As for Su Manjiao and Su Yi, to maintain their script, they stayed by Ji Mingxuan's side, taking care of him. They never once came to visit me. I didn't cry or make a scene. I spent a few days quietly in the hospital. The first thing I did after being discharged and returning home was contact a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. Then I started packing my things. I entered the password, which was my birthday, and opened the door to the room, the study that the mother and daughter had never allowed me to enter. What greeted me were pictures of me plastered all over the room, on the walls, on the desk, even locked in the cabinets. It was all images of me. Everyone said the Su mother and daughter never loved me. Only I knew they loved me to a sickening degree. My grandmother and Su Minjiao's grandmother were old friends. After my parents passed away, I was taken in by the Su family. The first time I met Su Minjiao, the young woman stood on the stairs, looking down at me. Her gaze was as cold as ice. I fell in love with her at first sight. I pursued her for many years. She never gave me a second glance. Even after marrying me at Grandma So's request, she remained cold and distant towards me, until one day, I accidentally stumbled into this study and discovered her deepest secret. This woman who was always so cold to me turned out to have been in love with me for a long time, cold during the day. But at night, she would gaze at me alone, passionately kissing my lips. And our daughter, Su Yi, was only 5 years old, but already a perfect copy of her mother. On the surface, she acted indifferent to me, but behind my back, she secretly collected strands of my hair. They loved me, but they craved my attention in a sick way, so they deliberately acted cold towards me, even hiring Ji Mingxuan just to see me get jealous, to watch me get upset, and then secretly delight in it. I knew the truth, but I didn't expose it. I thought if I was just patient enough, I could one day heal their sickness. Until the incident at the hospital, when they chose to save Ji Mingxuan first. That's when I finally came to my senses. Some loves are destined to be a twisted cage. I threw all my luggage into the trash can, including the wedding ring I had worn for 5 years. Just as I threw it away, a Bugatti slowly pulled into the courtyard. Su Menjiao and Su Yi had brought Ji Mingxuan home. After getting out of the car, the mother and daughter ignored me as usual. Su Yi's small face darkened. She ordered the servants. Uncle Ji was just discharged. He hasn't fully recovered yet. He needs to stay here for a while. Go clean up the best guest room. Set it up to the master's standards. As they said these words, the mother and daughter kept secretly glancing at me, wanting to see the jealous pain on my face. If it were before, I would have definitely felt a stabbing pain, but now, I no longer shed tears for them. Not seeing the expected reaction, the mother and daughter's expressions soured slightly, but they just thought their performance wasn't convincing enough, so they hurriedly helped Ji Mingxuan into the villa to continue their play. Ji Mingxuan truly acted like he was the master. One moment, Head complained about the white rose bush outside the window. These flowers are beautiful, but they don't suit the villa. It would be better to change them to red roses. Su Menjiao immediately had people dig them all up, the white roses that I had planted with my own hands, replacing them with a jarring red. A moment later, he complained the curtains were too dark. Without a second thought, the mother and daughter completely changed the house I had personally decorated. I remained indifferent. Ji Mingxuan grew a bit uneasy. I am only staying for a few days, and you've already changed so much. Will Mr. Liu get angry? Su Menjiao said nonchalantly. Don't worry about what he thinks. At dinner, the servants brought out the food. The mother and daughter hovered around Ji Mingxuan. Su Menjiao peeled shrimp for him. Su Yi ladled soup for him, treating me as if I were invisible. My mind was elsewhere. I had just taken a sip of fish soup when a large fish bone suddenly got stuck in my throat. My face changed color. I couldn't breathe. My fingers clutched at my neck. The mother and daughter saw this, and for a moment, panic flickered in their eyes. They instinctively started to rush over. But just then, Ji Mingxuan also suddenly clutched his neck. His face contorted in pain. I've got a bone stuck too. The mother and daughter froze in place. Their gazes conflicted. In the end, they chose to continue their act. Su Menjiao gave Ji Mingxuan vinegar to drink. Su Yi called the servants to find the private doctor. My vision went dark. I tried with all my might to swallow the fish bone, but the sharp bone tore up my throat. Splat! I coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood. I completely passed out. When I woke up again, I heard Su Menjiao and Su Yi with their backs to me, coldly scolding the servants who cooked this fish soup. You nearly killed the master. All of you, get out. I struggled to sit up. My voice was hoarse. There's no need. Don't fire them. The mother and daughter spun around. I looked at them. My eyes were completely still. The ones who hurt me the most are those who watch someone die and do nothing. What crime did the servants commit? Su Menjiao's expression changed. It's not your place to speak here. We weren't doing it for you. It was for Mingxuan. I warily closed my eyes. How much longer are you going to keep this act up? What did you say? The mother and daughter frowned, seemingly not hearing me clearly. I opened my mouth, about to speak, when the butler suddenly rushed over. Madam Chairman, Mr. Ji is awake. He's been looking for you. Su Menjiao and Su Yi looked at each other. They turned without a moment's hesitation. You just rest up. We're going to take care of Mingxuan. After saying that, they left without a backward glance, heading straight for Ji Mingxuan's room. For the next few days, the mother and daughter treated Ji Mingxuan even better. Su Menjiao personally fed him his medicine. Su Yi stayed by his side, chatting with him constantly. I knew they were putting on a show for me, but I no longer cared. Until the day of Ji Mingxuan's birthday party. The Su family villa was lavishly decorated. The guests marveled at how highly the Su family regarded Ji Mingxuan. CEO Su really cares for Mr. Ji. That's right, Mr. Lu has been married for so many years. CEO Su has never thrown a birthday party for him. Even his own daughter only hovers around Ji Mingxuan. Mr. Lu is such a failure. The murmurs of the crowd reached my ears. I laughed self-deprecatingly. Yes, I am a failure. Who would have thought that this mother and daughter, who clearly love me to death, would insist on expressing it this way. In the middle of the party hall, Ji Mingxuan wore a high-end, custom-tailored suit. Like a true master of the house, flanked by Su Menjiao and Su Yi, they gave him expensive gifts, blew out his candles, and made wishes with him. But their eyes would occasionally glance my way, wanting to catch a hint of jealousy or sadness on my face. But I just sat quietly in the corner, with an indifferent expression, as if none of this had anything to do with me. The faces of the mother and daughter grew darker and darker. Mr. Lu, Ji Mingxuan suddenly spoke up. His voice was gentle. What gift did you prepare for me? I looked up. I didn't prepare anything. Ji Mingxuan wasn't angry either. He feigned pitifulness. How can I not have a gift on my birthday? He acted aggrieved. Is it because you don't welcome me here? As he spoke, his gaze fell upon the jade pendant around my neck. His eyes lit up. This piece of jade is so beautiful. Why don't you give it to me as a birthday present? I frowned, instinctively covering the pendant. No. Ji Mingxuan's eyes immediately reddened. He looked at the mother and daughter, pleading for help. Take it off. Su Menjiao's voice was as cold as ice. Su Yi was even more sarcastic. It's just a worthless old pendant. If Uncle Ji likes it, give it to him. Why be so stingy? This isn't an ordinary jade pendant. My voice began to tremble. Su Menjiao walked straight over and snatched the cord. The thin cord left a red mark on my neck. It stung. Mr. Lu, you can't even part with a single piece of jade? At most, I'll buy you another one just like it later. It doesn't matter how many you buy, it won't be the same. My voice shook. This was my grandmother's. Su Menjiao froze for a moment, but quickly regained her cold expression. The dead can't be brought back. Stay away from these old things. Only then can you move on. As she handed the jade pendant to Ji Mingxuan, I could clearly see her fingertips trembling slightly. Su Yi, standing beside her, chimed in. That's right, Dad. You're too obsessed. I was completely devastated. Could they really take their act this far? Could it be that their love was just about watching me suffer? I was about to rush forward to get it back, when Ji Mingxuan's hand slipped. Clink! The jade pendant fell hard onto the floor, shattering into several pieces. My pupils contracted sharply. I quickly knelt down to pick them up. What are you doing? Ji Mingxuan feigned panic. I am sorry. I didn't mean to. Let me help you fix it. Get lost. I shoved him hard. Trembling, I gathered the pieces into my palm. The sharp edges of the broken jade dug deep into my flesh, but it was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. I turned to go back to my room, but Su Menjiao blocked me. You. What kind of attitude is that? It's just a piece of jade. It's broken. So it's broken. How dare you push Mingxuan? I didn't want to say another word to them. I slipped past them and went straight upstairs. In my room, I tried to piece the jade back together, but no matter how I arranged them, the cracks were still clearly visible. Just like the relationship between me and the Su mother and daughter, it could never be mended. I took a deep breath and decided to go out and find a professional to repair it. As soon as I opened the door, Ji Mingxuan was standing right outside. A victorious smirk played on his lips. Now you see how important I am. Don't. You. Even if it's an heirloom you treasure, all I have to do is say the word, and they'll still snatch it and give it to me. He leaned in close to me and lowered his voice. If you know what's good for you, get out of the way. Seeing his smug and self-satisfied look, I suddenly found it ridiculous. Did Su Menjiao and Su Yi know that the person they hired to act in their play had become this greedy? I looked at him coldly. I think you're the one who doesn't know their place. Ji Mingxuan's face changed. What do you mean? Do you know something? I couldn't be bothered to argue. I pushed him aside to leave, but Ji Mingxuan grabbed my wrist. Stop. Make yourself clear. Let go. I shook him off. I clearly didn't use much force, but Ji Mingxuan acted as if had been shoved hard. His whole body fell backward. Ah! A piercing scream. Ji Mingxuan tumbled straight down the stairs. The loud noise drew Su Menjiao and Su Yi, who rushed over. Su Menjiao held Ji Mingxuan, who was lying on the ground. What happened? Ji Mingxuan's eyes were red. I just wanted to apologize about the jade pendant. But not only did he not accept it, he cursed at me and told me to get lost. He said he didn't want to see me, and that he didn't want you two near me either. Hearing this, a flicker of joy appeared in the eyes of the mother and daughter. The corners of their mouths turned up unconsciously, but they quickly suppressed it. Feigning seriousness, Su Menjiao told the servants to help Ji Mingxuan go get checked. Then she looked at me and said coldly, for the last few days, you haven't cried or made a scene. I thought you had finally learned to be magnanimous. Turns out it was all an act. Since you dared to push Mingxuan, ever to have to pay the price. She raised her hand and called the bodyguards, drag him to the 3rd floor, and throw him down. Those words struck my heart like a sledgehammer. My eyes widened. My voice trembled. Su Menjiao, are you insane? I didn't push him. He fell on his own. The 3rd floor isn't that high, she said coldly. It's just to let you taste Mingxuan's pain, so you won't do it again. The bodyguards grabbed me under my arms. I struggled desperately, but it was useless. As I was dragged to the 3rd floor, I screamed in despair. Su Menjiao, Su Yi, you will both regret this. Thud. As my body slammed onto the marble floor of the courtyard, I heard the crisp sound of my bones shattering. Excruciating pain shot through my entire body. Fresh blood trickled from the corner of my mouth. My vision began to blur. In my delirium, I saw Su Menjiao and Su Yi standing not far away. Under the lights, an irrepressible smile spread across the mother and daughter's faces. Mom. Su Yi whispered. Dad is really getting jealous because of us again. His eyes are sparkling. Dad loves us so much. I am so happy. Su Menjiao stroked the girl's head and said softly, Mom is happy too. I heard their conversation, and my heart felt like it was being ripped in two. My pain, their cruelty, in their eyes. It was just a game to prove my love. Darkness washed over me like a tide. I finally couldn't hold on any longer, and completely lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was greeted by the blinding white lights of a hospital. My whole body ached as if it had been crushed. The pain seeped into every bone. A nurse was changing my dressing. Seeing my eyes open, she hurried over. You're awake. How are you feeling? I struggled to move my lips. My throat was as dry as if it were on fire. Who brought me here? A mother and daughter. The nurse replied while adjusting my IV drip. Her eyes filled with admiration. Was that your wife and daughter? They're so beautiful. She continued to chatter. When they brought you in, they were worried sick. They booked the entire floor and stayed by your bedside all night. My fingers trembled slightly. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. This again. Clearly, they were heartbroken inside, but on the outside, they had to maintain that cold facade. How ridiculous. But the strange thing is, the nurse continued, as soon as the doctor said you were about to wake up, they rushed off to another patient's room. Should I call them to come over? I closed my eyes and wearily shook my head. No need. I understood their game too well. They must have gone to Ji Mingxuan's room again to continue their act. In the following days, I took care of myself, quietly recovering from my injuries. On the day of my discharge, the lawyer sent over the prepared divorce agreement. I reviewed it carefully. After confirming there were no errors, I signed my name. Just as I finished the discharge procedures, I ran into Su Menjiao and Su Yi right in the hospital corridor. They were helping Ji Mingxuan with his discharge procedures. The mother and daughter were protectively flanking him. Su Menjiao was even personally carrying his bag, while Su Yi thoughtfully held his coat for him. I stood rooted to the spot. My fingers clutched the divorce papers. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. I held the papers out in front of Su Menjiao. Sign it. Su Menjiao frowned. What is this? Ji Mingxuan beside her immediately said in a gentle voice. It's probably the discharge papers. They need a family member's signature. He tugged on Su Menjiao's sleeve, pretending to be concerned. Mengiao, sign it. My head is a little dizzy. I want to go home and rest soon. Su Yi also lifted her small face, feigning worry. Mom, hurry up and sign. Uncle Ji is not feeling well. Only then did Su Menjiao pick up the pen. Without even looking at the contents, she signed her name directly on it. Then she turned and left with Su Yi and Ji Mingxuan, not even sparing me a single glance. I stood there. My heart felt like it had been hollowed out, but strangely, it didn't hurt anymore. After the 1-month divorce cooling-off period, I could finally get the divorce certificate. Just as I stepped out of the hospital gate, a Rolls-Royce limousine slowly stopped in front of me. The car window rolled down. Ji Mingxuan stuck his head out. Mr. Liu, since we've run into each other, let's go home together. I replied coldly. No need. 2 very faint coughs came from the back seat. Su Menjiao and Su Yi both frowned at the same time. Their eyes uncontrollably darted towards me. Ji Mingxuan immediately got out of the car and grabbed my arm. Don't hold a grudge about last time. Even though you pushed me, you've already been punished for it. Let's just let it go. As he spoke, he forcibly pulled me into the car. I knew this was definitely the mother and daughter's idea. They wanted to be with me, but they couldn't say it directly, so they had to have Ji Mingxuan do it. How ironic and pathetic. The car started moving. A suffocating silence filled the car. Su Menjiao personally poured Ji Mingxuan a glass of warm water. Su Yi thoughtfully put a coat on him. The mother and daughter's movements were fluid and natural, but their eyes would occasionally glance my way, as if hoping to catch a hint of jealousy or sadness on my face. But I just stared silently out the window. My eyes were completely dead. The window reflected my pale face and the anxious, restless gazes of the mother and daughter. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The car shook violently. My head slammed into the back of the front seat. Everything went dark for a moment. In that moment of hazy consciousness, I saw it clearly. Su Menjiao and Su Yi lunged towards me at the same time. Their arms were already outstretched in midair, but the moment their eyes met mine, they stiffly changed direction and held Ji Mingxuan tightly to protect him. My heart grew completely cold. The driver hurriedly apologized. Su Menjiao and Su Yi anxiously checked to see if Ji Mingxuan was hurt. Ji Mingxuan gently said, I am fine. Luckily, you two were here to protect me. Then he suddenly exclaimed, Oh my, Lu Huai is seriously injured. Only then did the mother and daughter turn to look at me. My forehead was bleeding. My arm had several bleeding cuts from the broken glass. I looked absolutely pathetic. The driver quickly asked if we should go back to the hospital. Su Menjiao's throat bobbed. Her eyes showed a struggle. But in the end, she coldly said, No need. Mingxuan still needs to rest. She looked at me. Her tone was indifferent. Just go home and put some medicine on it yourself. Su Yi chimed in. That's right, Dad. You can handle it yourself. I said nothing. I just slowly closed my eyes. I was so tired that I couldn't even feel the pain anymore. After returning to the villa, I endured the pain and applied medicine to myself. In the following days, I quietly recovered in my room until today. I went out to take out the trash. Just as I threw the trash in, a sharp pain shot through the back of my neck. In the final second, before passing out, I clearly saw the attacker's face. It was Su Menjiao's enemy. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in an abandoned factory. My whole body was tightly bound with coarse ropes. I couldn't move, and what made me shudder even more was, there was a bomb tied around my waist. The countdown timer showed 300. Ji Mingxuan was also tied to a pillar opposite me. His face was pale with fear. What's going on? I didn't answer. I lowered my head and tried to escape the ropes, but the ropes were too tight. I struggled a few times. My wrists only became more raw and painful from the friction. The countdown ticked by, second by second. Just then, the factory's large gate was kicked open. Bang! Blinding sunlight streamed in. I squinted. I saw 2 familiar figures rush in. It was Su Menjiao and Su Yi. The mother and daughter had tense expressions. Their eyes quickly scanned the factory. Finally, they locked onto me. Su Menjiao's pupils suddenly constricted. She almost instinctively rushed towards me. Menjiao. Yi. Ji Mingxuan suddenly cried out in terror. His voice was trembling. I am so scared. The mother and daughter's steps faltered. Su Menjiao's throat moved. Her eyes showed an intense struggle. Su Yi also clenched her small fists, staring intently at me, as if trying her best to restrain something. Finally, Su Menjiao closed her eyes. She turned and walked towards Ji Mingxuan. Well, save Mingxuan first. Her voice was low, as if she was convincing herself. Lu Huai, you wait a little longer. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. The pain was so intense, I could barely breathe. I watched Su Menjiao and Su Yi quickly untie Ji Mingxuan. They helped him walk out. Ji Mingxuan leaned against Su Menjiao. He glanced back at me once. The corner of his mouth lifted in a triumphant smirk. A chill ran down my spine. They really left. In a moment of life and death like this, they still chose to put on a show. I clenched my teeth. I struggled desperately. The ropes finally loosened a bit. I suppressed the intense pain. Bit by bit, I pulled my wrists out of the bindings. My skin was rubbed raw and bloody, but I paid no mind to the pain. I was finally free from the ropes. I staggered outside, but I had only taken a few steps, when boom, a deafening explosion erupted behind me. A massive shockwave threw me forward. I fell hard to the ground. My back burned with searing pain. My ears were ringing. My vision blurred. In my daze, I saw Su Menjiao and Su Yi return. They rushed towards me like they were mad. Su Menjiao's eyes were bloodshot. Her voice was hoarse. Huai. Su Yi was also crying and calling, "Dad." I wanted to laugh, but I didn't even have the strength to smirk. I slowly closed my eyes and sank into darkness. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital bed. My whole body ached as if it had been crushed. The nurse saw I was awake. She quickly held me down. "Don't move. You just had a kidney transplant. You can't move around." "A kidney transplant?" My voice was raspy. "Yes. You were injured by the bomb. Your kidney ruptured. Luckily, your wife didn't hesitate to donate her kidney to you, and your daughter gave you 800 cc of blood." My fingers trembled slightly. The nurse continued, "You really have a good wife and daughter. Not only did they book the entire floor for you to recover, but they also took turns, watching over you for 3 days and 3 nights. I closed my eyes. A sharp pain stabbed my heart. They'd rather donate a kidney, give blood, and watch over me than say a single "I love you." But that's fine. That kind of love. I don't need it anyway. During these days in the hospital, Su Menjiao and Su Yi never visited me once, but strangely, I kept feeling someone sneak into my room in the middle of the night. Sometimes, cool fingers would gently caress my face. Sometimes, warm lips would touch mine. And once, I even heard someone whisper in my ear, "My darling, get well soon." That night, I again felt someone approaching. Warm breath fanned across my neck. Soft lips gently pressed against my earlobe. I suddenly opened my eyes. Su Menjiao's face was right in front of me. Our eyes met. A flash of panic crossed her eyes. "What are you doing?" I asked coldly. Su Menjiao's expression froze. The next second, she raised her hand. Thwack! She delivered a karate chop to the back of my neck. Everything went dark. I passed out again. A few days later, Su Menjiao finally brought Su Yi to visit me officially. "How are your injuries?" Su Menjiao stood at the foot of the bed. Her voice was as cold as if she were asking a stranger. My gaze fell on her slightly trembling fingertips. I suddenly laughed. "Have you been coming here these past few days?" Su Menjiao's pupils constricted sharply. She quickly turned her face away. Her voice was stiff and cold. "No. We've been busy taking care of Mingxuan. Today, we were just on our way to pick up medicine. We just dropped by to see you." After speaking, she turned to leave. Her back was as stiff as a board. But Su Yi stood frozen in place. Her small hand clutched her mother's hem. Her eyes were red like a rabbit's. "Su Menjiao, Su Yi," I suddenly called out to them. The mother and daughter turned their heads at the same time. Their movements were in perfect sync, as if rehearsed 1,000 times. I looked at their identical faces. Su Menjiao's tense jawline, Su Yi's red-rimmed eyes. I suddenly felt utterly exhausted, as if I had traveled thousands of miles over mountains and rivers, only to find the destination had long since vanished. I opened my mouth. I wanted to say that I knew that every night they secretly came to my room to watch over me until dawn. I wanted to say that I could smell Su Menjiao's unique, cold scent. I wanted to say I heard Su Yi hiding at the end of the hall, and her suppressed sobs, but in the end, I just wearily closed my eyes. Forget it. I am tired, so tired, that I no longer had the strength to expose this ridiculous play. Since they like using pain to prove their love so much, then let them act it out to their heart's content. After all, I am about to leave this stage for good. The day I was discharged was the anniversary of my grandmother's death. I had just walked out of the hospital gate when I saw Su Menjiao's car parked on the roadside. The car window rolled down. Su Yi poked her head out. "Today is great-grandma's death anniversary. Mom and I will go with you, Dad." I opened the car door, just in time to see Ji Mingxuan's smug smile in the back seat. My fingers dug into the wrapping paper of the flower bouquet. I got into the car in silence. A cold, desolate wind blew through the cemetery. A staff member approached and said respectfully, "Mr. Lu, your grandmother's plot needs its fee renewed." Su Menjiao directly took out her card to handle the procedure. After she and Su Yi left, Ji Mingshuan's expression immediately changed. Your grandmother has been dead for so many years, and you still come to pay respects. What a waste of time, he mocked. Does she even deserve to occupy such a good burial plot? I snapped my head up. My eyes were bloodshot. Say that again. Am I wrong? Ji Mingshuan laughed maliciously. It's a good thing she died early. Otherwise, seeing her grandson be so pathetic, shamelessly clinging to a woman who doesn't love him, she'd probably be angry enough to rise from her grave. Slap. The crisp sound of a slap echoed through the cemetery. Ji Mingshuan stumbled backward. The back of his head hit the tombstone hard. Fresh blood immediately trickled down his carefully styled hair. Lu Huai. Su Menjiao and Su Yi heard the noise and ran over, just in time to see this scene. Ji Mingshuan immediately clutched his head and cried a river of tears. Menjiao, Lu Huai is angry. You two have been taking care of me these past few days. You even brought me. To pay respects to his grandmother, he got jealous and hit me. It was my fault for not knowing my place. I deserved it for making him angry. The mother and daughter looked at each other. A discreet flash of joy passed through their eyes, but Su Menjiao's expression quickly darkened. She looked at me. Her gaze was as cold as ice. Lu Huai, what chaos are you causing now? Su Yi also darkened her small face, just like her mother. Her voice carried a maturity beyond her years. Dad, you hurt Uncle Ji. You must be punished. After speaking, Su Menjiao raised her hand and ordered the bodyguards. Dig up the urn. My pupils suddenly constricted. The blood in my entire body seemed to freeze in an instant. Su Menjiao, how dare you? The bodyguards' movements were shockingly fast. The sound of shovels digging into the earth rang out harshly in the quiet cemetery. I lunged forward like a madman, but a bodyguard grabbed my wrist tightly. Swoosh! The moment the urn was opened, a cold wind whistled past. It carried the grayish-white powder, scattering it into the air. What are you doing? Su Menjiao's face changed suddenly. Her voice carried an unprecedented panic. Who told you to scatter them? The bodyguard was stunned. The shovel fell to the ground with a clang. Didn't you mean you wanted them scattered? The bones ground to dust? CO? Time seemed to stop at that moment. Su Menjiao and Su Yi froze on the spot, simultaneously. On their two identical faces appeared the exact same look of shock and regret. I watched the ashes filling the sky. In my daze, I seemed to see my grandmother's kind smile dissolving in the wind. The grandmother who used to carry me on her shoulders to pick peaches. The grandmother who, whenever I was wronged, was always the first to stand up and protect me. The grandmother who, before she died, was still worried about my happiness. Just like that, she turned into a wisp of dust between heaven and earth. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. The pain was so intense I could barely breathe. A metallic sweetness rose in my throat. I violently coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood. Everything went dark. I fell before the tombstone, cold, in a daze. I felt myself floating in endless darkness. The intentionally lowered voices of the mother and daughter reached my ears, as if echoing from a very distant place. Mom, did we go too far? Su Yi's voice was choked with sobs. We made Dad so sad that he coughed up blood. Immediately after, a pair of warm hands carefully took hold of my hand. Su Menjiao's voice trembled, barely audible. Huai, I am sorry. Please wake up. I didn't mean to. I never intended to scatter the ashes, Dad. Su Yi sobbed, her small hand gently stroked my cheek. We just wanted to make you jealous. We love you. Tears leaked from the corners of my eyes, silently soaking the pillowcase. They need my suffering to prove I care. They need my tears to confirm my love. Behind every act of cruelty lies their sick satisfaction. So this is their love. They want me to hurt. They want me to cry. They want me to live a life worse than death. Only then can they prove that I care. But that kind of love, I don't need it. When I woke up at home, the entire villa was empty. Only the maid was busy downstairs. I opened my phone to check the time, only to find the screen flooded with news of Su Menjiao and Su Yi taking Ji Mingshuan in and out of high-end restaurants and designer stores. In every photo, Ji Mingshuan had his arm around Su Menjiao's waist. Su Yi held her hand. The three of them were laughing and talking like a real family. I scrolled through the news impassively. My gaze stopped on the calendar. A date was circled in red pen. 3 days left in the divorce mediation period. I was finally about to be free. On the anniversary of the Su group, as the nominal male head of the household, I was forced to attend. The ballroom was magnificent. Glasses clinked. Ji Mingshuan wore a high-end custom suit. He had his arm linked with Su Mengiao's, like a true male host, accepting everyone's. Congratulations. CEO Su really spoils Mr. Ji. That's right. I heard the young Miss is also especially fond of him. I stood in a corner, drinking quietly, as if none of this had anything to do with me. Halfway through the party, the MC announced the raffle drawing. The grand prize is one wish granted by CEO SU and the young miss. No matter what it is, they will definitely agree. The whole room buzzed. Everyone waited excitedly for the winner to be announced. Congratulations to Mr. Ji Mingxuan for winning the grand prize. Ji Mingxuan covered his mouth in surprise. He walked onto the stage to everyone's applause. He took the microphone. He glanced shyly at Su Menjiao. My wish is to hear Yi, call me dad. The atmosphere froze in an instant. Everyone's gazes shifted back and forth between me and Ji Mingxuan. Su Yi stood on the stage. Her small face was tense. She looked towards me, a flicker of anticipation and anxiety in her eyes. But when she saw my emotionless expression, the corners of her mouth drooped slightly. Dad! She suddenly broke into a smile. Her voice was clear and resonant. Then she stood on her tiptoes and kissed Ji Mingxuan on the cheek. The room erupted in thunderous applause and cheers. My knuckles turned white around my wine glass. In a daze, I recalled the first time Su Yi called me dad. She was just learning to talk then. Her voice was so sweet and endearing. That single word, dad, made me cry all night. The music for the opening dance began. Su Menjiao walked straight towards Ji Mingxuan. She took his hand. Whispers broke out all around. CEO Su didn't ask Mr. Liu for the opening dance this year. It seems Mr. Ji is about to become official. Definitely. Look, even the young miss calls him dad now. I sat in the corner, drinking myself into a stupor, glass after glass. The alcohol burned my stomach, but it couldn't warm my frozen heart. I don't know how much I drank. My vision started to blur. I vaguely saw a waiter come to help me up. Sir, you're drunk. Let me take you upstairs to rest. I was helped into the presidential suite on the top floor. I collapsed onto the bed. The waiter thoughtfully took off my shoes for me. He closed the door and left. When the door was pushed open again, I was drunk to the point of delirium. Ji Mingxuan walked in, wearing leather shoes. He looked down on me from above. Your daughter called me dad. How does that feel? I closed my eyes. My voice was hoarse. I don't feel anything. Ji Mingxuan sneered. You're really good at enduring. Your heart must be bleeding, right? He leaned down and whispered in my ear, but you don't need to worry. I've already stolen your daughter. Next, I'll give you a child too. I had a bad feeling. I used all my strength to fight off the drunkenness. I opened my eyes. The next second, I saw a strange woman push the door open and enter. Ji Mingxuan quickly backed out. He locked the door from the outside. The woman rushed at me with a seductive laugh. She ripped at my clothes. I resisted with all my might. I slapped the woman hard across the face, while she was stunned by the pain. I fumbled for my phone. I tremblingly dialed Su Menjiao's number. It was too late to call the police. I could only call Su Menjiao. She was right here in this hotel. Once, twice. The phone just kept ringing. Unanswered. 10 times, 20 times, until the 28th call, there was still only the cold, busy tone. I was completely desperate. Seeing that my strength was failing, I used the last of my energy to grab the vase on the table. I smashed it hard over the woman's head. While she fell down screaming, I staggered towards the window. Without a moment's hesitation, I jumped. I landed in the bushes below. My knees and arms were covered in countless bloody scratches from the branches, but I paid no mind to the pain. I scrambled up and ran forward, until I reached a corner. A familiar voice made me screech to a halt. Su Yi's voice came through. Mom. Dad called so many times. Mom isn't answering the phone? What if something happened to him? Su Menjiao stared at the phone screen. Her eyes showed a struggle. Finally, she coldly said that if they answered, then your father would know that we care about him a lot. Su Yi nodded. Mom is right. Dad's love for us still isn't enough. He's only called 28 times. The little girl counted on her fingers. He has to call at least 9 times to prove it, that Dad really loves us. I hid in a corner and listened to their conversation. My heart felt like it was being torn apart. It turns out they were still testing my love, but I had long since lost all affection for them. I limped out of the hotel. I hailed a taxi to go home. I took out the first aid kit. I treated my wounds cursorily. Then I started packing my luggage. The divorce is tomorrow. The reconciliation period will end. I can finally leave this place for good. I finished packing the last suitcase. I was about to pour a glass of water when a sudden news report on TV struck me like lightning. Piano genius Ji Mingxuan, thanks to his self-composed song Huai Ji, has won the gold medal at the international piano competition. The glass cup in my hand fell and shattered. On the screen, Ji Mingxuan stood on the winner's podium. He gave a gentle smile as he answered the interview questions. It took me 3 years to compose this piece. The inspiration came from my feelings about life and love. My whole body trembled. That's my song. I composed it myself. The original score hadn't even been released. How did it become Ji Mingxuan's? The sound of the door being pushed open interrupted my thoughts. Su Menjiao walked in with Su Yi and Ji Mingxuan. The three of them were laughing and talking, like a happy family of 3. What is this all about? I pointed at the TV. My voice trembled so much it was distorted. Give me an explanation. Su Menjiao didn't even bother to look. She nonchalantly said there was no need for an explanation. Since Mingxuan likes it, I just gave it to him. That's my composition. I practically hissed these words through my teeth. I've already given it to him. Su Menjiao frowned impatiently. Your hand is ruined anyway. Just stay home and take care of the family from now on. That sentence was like a sharp knife, stabbing straight into my heart. That's right. My hand is ruined. That day at the hospital, they didn't hesitate to choose to save Jie Mingxuan first, causing me to permanently lose the ability to play the piano. Just because they said only when my hand was ruined would I love them with all my heart. So this is their love, taking away my career, stealing my compositions, breaking my wings, just to imprison me in this gilded cage forever. I bit my lip hard, to the point I could taste blood. Su Menjiao, Su Yi, you will regret this. Those who betray true love will have to swallow 10,000 needles. Su Menjiao's expression changed abruptly. What do you mean? I didn't answer. I turned and went back to my room and slammed the door shut. Jie Mingxuan's gentle voice came from outside the door. Mengjiao, Yi, tomorrow we'll go accept the award. Get lost. Su Menjiao pushed his hand away. Her eyes were sinister. He's not here. What are you still acting for? The act is over. So don't be an eyesore here. I am warning you. Su Yu's voice was cold, not like a child's. If you make Dad unhappy, everything we gave you can be taken back. Jie Mingxuan's face turned pale. He answered subserviently, but a sinister glint flashed in his eyes. Early the next morning, when I came downstairs, Su Menjiao and Su Yi immediately sat close to Jie Mingxuan. Today we have to go with Mingxuan to accept the award. You just stay home. Don't come and ruin things. I calmly nodded. Don't worry, everyone. It'll never ruin things again. The casual sentence made Su Menjiao's heart suddenly tremble. She instinctively wanted to say something, but Jie Mingxuan put his arm around her. Menjiao, we should go. After they left, I stood in the middle of the empty living room and took a deep breath. I took out the documents I had prepared earlier and went straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, when the clerk handed me the divorce certificate, I didn't even give it a second glance. Returning to the place that was once my home, I placed the divorce papers on the coffee table in the living room, then I turned and left, never looking back again. Backstage at the awards ceremony, Jie Mingxuan was in front of a mirror, adjusting his bow tie. His diamond cufflinks sparkled dazzlingly under the lights. Su Menjiao stood beside him with a cold expression. Her eyes, which were usually always cold, unconsciously glanced towards the door. Her gaze held a trace of expectation. Mom, do you think Dad will come? Su Yi suddenly spoke up, voicing the exact question in Su Menjiao's heart. Jie Mingxuan paused his adjustment of the bow tie. He walked over in his leather shoes. Mr. Liu looked very sad this morning. He will probably still come. CEO Su, young miss. That way, you two can see his jealous side again. Although he said that, Su Menjiao felt an inexplicable growing unease in her heart. She couldn't help but take out her phone to call me, but she only heard the cold notification sound. Sorry, the number you have dialed is switched off. Huai's phone is actually switched off. Why? She was about to call again. Just then, a staff member came over and said respectfully, the awards ceremony is about to begin.
please take your seats?
He had never seen this look in Su Mengyo's eyes, as if she were looking at a corpse. I just thought Mr. Liu had left, so... His voice started to tremble. Shut up. Su Mengyo's voice was very soft, but it sent a chill down Ji Mingshuan's spine. From now on, if you dare to mention his name again, make sure you don't see tomorrow's sun. Understood? Ji Mingshuan nodded in panic. His leather shoes tripped on the threshold, and he almost fell. He stumbled away, fleeing towards his car. His heart pounded as if it would leap out of his chest. The night grew late. In the Su family villa, Su Mengjiao stood before the nursery door, watching Suy, who had finally fallen into a difficult sleep. The little girl slept restlessly. Tear stains still lingered on her small face. In her arms, she clutched that dirty teddy bear. Su Mengjiao gently closed the door and walked towards the study. On the desk, the lawyer's letter about custody rights was still open. Beside it were the things she had people collect, all the reports on my whereabouts, all useless information. She pulled open a drawer and took out an album. Inside were all photos of me, from my debut at 18 to how I looked at the Su family gathering last year. Her fingers gently traced over those smiling faces. She suddenly realized, in most of the photos, I was smiling alone, while she always stood very far away, expressionless. A drop of water fell onto the album. Su Mengyo froze. Only then did she realize it was her own tear. In another place, far from the Su family villa, in another city a few hundred kilometers away, the sound of a piano flowed from the recording studio. I wore headphones. My fingers adjusted the precise parameters on the mixing board. After a period of treatment, the wrist that was once bandaged now moved naturally. Only upon close inspection could one see the tiny scars. Let's redo the third bar. The violin part should be a bit softer, I said into the microphone. My voice traveled through the glass to the band's ears. The recording engineer brought over a cup of hot tea. He couldn't help but praise Mr. Liu. Your ears are truly amazing. Even I couldn't hear any problem with that last part. I smiled and accepted it. The ring mark on my ring finger had faded until it was almost invisible. The studio logo on the cup reflected fragmented rays of light. YG Music. This is the studio I founded with a secret investment 5 years ago. This money had always been kept in an anonymous account. Even Su Mengjiao didn't know. During a break, my assistant hurried over. Mr. Liu, the exclusive interview with Music Magazine is scheduled for 3 p.m. They want to focus on the composition process of your new song. Tell them we can talk about composition, but not about my private life. I interrupted. My fingertips unconsciously rubbed the scar on the inside of my wrist. The assistant hesitated to speak, but the editor-in-chief said readers are very interested in you and the Su group. My gaze turned cold. Then cancel the interview. No. They've agreed to only talk about music. The assistant hastily corrected himself, silently cursing himself for misspeaking. The afternoon interview went unexpectedly smoothly, until the very end. A female reporter with round-rimmed glasses suddenly asked, Mr. Liu, I heard you used to be a pianist. Why did you switch to composing behind the scenes? The recording studio suddenly fell silent. I stared at the fountain pen dangling on the reporter's chest. It was a limited edition Mont Blanc. Su Mengjiao once gave me a similar one. Because of an accident, I answered calmly, slowly rolling up my shirt sleeve, revealing the hideous scar on my wrist. My wrist was injured, but I missed the best time for treatment, the reporter gasped. The camera lens immediately focused on that scar. I didn't shy away. Instead, I turned my wrist towards the camera. A comminuted fracture. The doctor said if I had surgery 2 hours earlier, I could have recovered 80% of its function. My voice was very soft, but it resounded firmly in the studio. But at that time, someone decided to save another patient with minor injuries first. The interview video was released at 8 p.m. that night. By 9 o'clock, it had climbed to the #1 trending topic. The headline was sensational. Piano prodigy Liu Huai reveals the inside story of his hand injury. Female CEO of SU Group delays treatment to save a gigolo. The Su Group's public relations department was in chaos. The phone in the CEO's office rang incessantly. Su Mengjiao stood before the floor-to-ceiling window. On her phone screen was a close-up shot of me during the interview. The sight of me calmly showing my scar was so unfamiliar it sent a chill through her heart. This wasn't the me in her memories. The person who would be overjoyed by a single word from her. The person who would shed tears of sorrow over a glance from Su Yi. Now, before the camera, he was like an ice sculpture. Even his anger was restrained. CEO Su, the stock price has dropped by 7 points. The CFO's voice came through the phone. The board of directors is demanding an urgent statement. Su Mengjiao hung up. She opened another group chat that was flashing frantically. A recording was spreading like wildfire in the group. It was Ji Mingshuan at some drinking party, bragging, with filthy words about how he handled the Su mother and daughter. At the end of the recording, he said smugly, "Who the hell is Liu Huai? Mr. Liu's entire life is my stepping stone." Her eyes instantly turned ice cold. She made a phone call. Teach Ji Mingshuan a lesson. Late at night, Ji Mingshuan came out of his apartment, still worrying about how to erase the negative impact of his plagiarism, completely unaware. A black van was silently tailing him. The screech of tires tore through the night, followed by a loud bang. Panicked passers-by gathered around, only to see a car crashed crookedly into the guardrail. The car's airbags had all deployed. Ji Mingshuan, his face covered in blood, was slumped over the steering wheel. The next morning, Su Menjiao was presiding over a media crisis management meeting. Her secretary hurried in and whispered a few words. Without changing her expression, she announced a recess. It was only when she returned to her office that a cold smile appeared. Was it handled cleanly? Yes, CEO Su, the woman in black, said softly. The car was tampered with, but it won't be fatal. Just to teach him a lesson. The hospital has also been taken care of. He won't remember the details. Su Menjiao nodded. Her gaze fell on the desk. On the latest issue of Finance magazine, the cover was an article about my studio. In the accompanying photo, I was mentoring young musicians. The profile of my face under the light looked exceptionally gentle yet resolute. She had found me, but it seemed I no longer belonged to her. Rainwater trickled down the studio's glass window. I stood before the mixing board. My fingertips tapped lightly on the desk to the rhythm in my headphones. Suddenly, a frantic knock on the door interrupted my work. Mr. Liu, there's a child at the front desk. The assistant entered with a complicated expression. She says she's your daughter. My fingers froze mid-air. I slowly took off my headphones. Through the slightly ajar door, I saw a soaked SUY standing at the front desk. The cuffs of her uniform were covered in mud. In her arms, she clutched a rain-soaked workbook. Let her in. My voice was calm, betraying no emotion. Su Yu nearly bolted into the studio. Her small figure amidst the expensive equipment looked especially fragile. She looked up. Rain and tears mingled as they streamed down her face. Dad, I finally found you. I got a perfect score on my test. Look, Dad. She tremblingly opened the workbook. The writing inside was blurred by the rain, but the bright red 100 was still visible. I remembered I once promised that if Su Yi got a perfect score, I would take her to Disneyland. I took the workbook. My expression was cold. Why aren't you in school? You skipped school to come here. Su Yi suddenly dropped to her knees. Her small hands gripped the hem of my shirt. Dad, can you come home? I swear I won't bully you with Mom anymore. From now on, I'll only listen to you. The studio was frighteningly quiet, only the sound of rain hitting the window. I squatted down, looking straight at my daughter, but I didn't help her up. Su Yi, do you know why I had to leave? Su Yi shook her head in panic. Tears streamed down her face. Because you and Mom didn't treat me well. You clearly love Dad, but you still bully Dad. But we really know we were wrong. No. My voice was very soft. You still haven't realized your mistake. I took a stack of photos from the drawer and spread them on the floor. They were all secret photos taken in the Su family's study. There was also a photo of the glass jar Su Yi used to collect my hair. A healthy child wouldn't collect her father's hair. A normal wife wouldn't monitor her husband's every move. I pointed out the window. The school roof was vaguely visible in the rain. There's a family event there today. It'll take you to see what real love is. The school's common room was filled with laughter and chatter. I led Su Yi to a corner, watching parents hoist their children high up, hearing unrestrained words of praise and encouragement. Dad, that little boy fell. Su Yu suddenly said quietly. I looked not far away. A boy of about 4 had fallen to the ground. His mother immediately knelt down, but she didn't rush to help him up. Sweetheart, can you stand up by yourself? Mommy is here waiting for you. The little boy stopped crying and smiled. He picked himself up and ran into his mother's arms. Su Yi's eyes were wide open. Her small hand unconsciously tightened around my finger. Eyes in his mom worried hell run away. Real love isn't about binding, but about trusting. It's like a kite string. If you hold it too tightly, it will break. Su Yi nodded, half understanding, but her gaze gradually grew distant. Just then, the common room door was forcefully pushed open. Su Menjiao burst in, bringing a cold air with her. Su Yi, her roar instantly silenced the entire room. The children were frightened, hiding in their father's arms. Mom. Su Menjiao strode over. She grabbed Su Yi's wrist tightly. Who allowed you to skip school? Su Yi was dragged away, stumbling, but she suddenly struggled. I am not going back. I want to be with Dad. I let go. I chose to ignore the fiery gazes of Su Menjiao and Su Yi, and turned to leave. In the car on the way home, Su Yi cowered in a corner, sobbing quietly. Su Menjiao recalled my cold gaze from just now. She irritably loosened her collar. Suddenly, her phone rang. What is it? On the other end of the line, the lawyer's voice was filled with anxiety. CEO, SU, we're in trouble. The Wang Group just released news, saying they have evidence of our illegal surveillance. The board of directors is calling for an emergency meeting. Su Menjiao's knuckles turned white. 3 days later, The entertainment world exploded. Lu Huai posted an article accusing his ex-wife of psychological abuse. The article detailed Su Menjiao's years of pathological control over me. Netizens were in an uproar. Late that night, I worked overtime at the studio until very late. As I turned off the lights to leave, a strong smell of alcohol hit my face. Lu Huai. Su Mengiao leaned against the doorframe. Her eyes were bloodshot. Are you satisfied now? I am asking you to leave. I asked if you were satisfied. Su Menjiao suddenly lunged up and punched the wall hard. My expression didn't change. I just let the truth come to light. Su Menjiao suddenly burst out laughing. That laughter was harder to hear than crying. What will it take for you to come back? She staggered forward, wanting to grab my hand. What do you want? My life? I took a step back, avoiding her touch. Unless I die. My voice was as light as a sigh. After all, only dead things can belong to you forever, right? Su Menjiao seemed shaken by this statement. As she left, she looked back one last time at me standing under the light. Rain lashed against the black car's window. I slowly regained consciousness in the back seat. A dull pain throbbed at the back of my neck. My wrists were chafed and bleeding from the rough rope. I narrowed my eyes, trying to identify the scenery flashing past the window through the rain. You're awake? Su Mengiao's voice came from the front seat, carrying a sick tenderness. Sleep a little longer. We're almost there. I didn't speak. I secretly moved my bound ankles. The car took a sharp turn. Familiar scenery flashed by. This was the road to the old Su family house. That villa had been empty for many years, located deep in the forest on the mountainside. 3 hours later, I was locked in a second-floor bedroom. Heavy curtains blocked out all light. Only a faint sliver of light came from under the door. The lock turned. Su Menjiao entered, carrying a tray of food. She had changed her clothes. Her hair was meticulously styled, as if this wasn't a kidnapping, but a formal date. Eat something. She placed the tray on the bedside table and reached out to touch my face, but I turned my head to avoid it. Su Menjiao's hand froze midair. Her eyes gradually darkened. Do you really have to be like this? We can clearly start over. False imprisonment is a criminal offense. My voice was hoarse from dehydration. If you let me go now, I can pretend nothing happened. Let you go? Su Menjiao suddenly laughed loudly. Her laughter echoed in the empty bedroom. To let you go abroad and be free? She forcefully gripped my chin. Listen carefully. You can only belong to me for this entire life. I looked straight into her crazed eyes and said calmly, then you can only have a corpse. Su Menjiao's gaze turned cold. She staggered back 2 steps. Then let's die together. I counted the time, until it was completely quiet outside. I struggled to drag myself to the window, and used my teeth to pull back a corner of the curtain. Outside was a sheer cliff. Rain streamed down the glass. I don't know how much time had passed. I was too weak to even sit up. I refused all food and water. My lips were dry, cracked, and bleeding. The sound of an argument came from outside. A childish voice rang out clearly. Mom, are you crazy? Dad is going to die. Shut up. He doesn't want you anymore. And you still defend him? It's because Mom wanted to test him. It was Mom who got Dad hurt. I hate you. After a struggle, came the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. I struggled to crawl towards the door, and heard Su Yi's suppressed sobs. I am going to call the police. I have to save Dad. You dare! Su Menjiao's roar echoed. My heart nearly stopped beating. I used all my strength to throw myself at the bedside table. The sound of a vase shattering on the floor finally attracted attention. The door was pushed open forcefully. Su Yi's small figure rushed in. Her left cheek was red and swollen, but her eyes widened the moment she saw me. Dad. Su Yi tremblingly took out her phone. I secretly called the police. They're coming soon. Su Menjiao stood at the door. Her face was ashen like a zombie's. The sound of police sirens grew closer from a distance, but she had no intention of running. She just stared at me. Why? Why? Can you still not love me? I didn't answer. Su Menjiao didn't resist. She calmly held out her hands to be cuffed. When the police asked if I wanted to press charges, Su Menjiao turned her head to look at me. That bizarre gaze made even the police officer take half a step back. I slowly nodded. I will hire the best lawyer. Su Menjiao saw the coldness deep in my eyes. Her face turned to ash. As for Su Yi, she was taken to an orphanage. When we parted, she clung to my shirt and wouldn't let go, crying until she almost couldn't breathe. I squatted down and whispered something in her ear. Only then did the little girl gradually calm down. I followed the social worker into the car. 1 month later, I was standing in the VIP lounge of the international airport. Mr. Liu, may I have your autograph? A flight attendant carefully handed me a notebook. My younger sister is a fan of yours. I smiled and signed my name. Just then, the TV in the lounge started broadcasting the morning news. The case of former Su Group CEO, Su Mengiao, for illegal imprisonment. The verdict was announced today. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison. As the plane soared into the clouds, I opened the music notebook I carried with me. Tucked inside was a drawing Sui made at the orphanage. 3 stick figures holding hands, but the figure on the far right had been erased so much it was about to disappear. 2 years later, at the Golden Hall in Vienna, I was wearing a simple white suit. I bowed amidst thunderous applause. I had just won an International Composition Award. I was the first male Chinese artist to receive this honor. During a backstage interview, a reporter cautiously asked, "Mr. Liu, your award-winning piece, Shackles, was the inspiration drawn from real-life experience? Do you still hate the person who hurt you?" Under the camera flashes, my smile was calm and relieved. Hate is another form of caring, and I learned to let go a long time ago. I gently caressed the scar on my wrist. These scars are now just a source of inspiration for my compositions. That's all they are. At the same time, in the break area of a domestic prison, an international newspaper was being passed among the inmates. The front page was a photo of me, receiving the award. Su Mengiao snatched the newspaper, staring at the radiant man in the photo. "Give it back to me." The other inmates rushed over. The newspaper was torn in two. Su Mengiao clutched the torn piece of paper and returned to her cell. She tore my photo to shreds with her teeth. When the guard discovered her, she was using a sharp piece of paper to cut bloody lines on her arm, mumbling repeatedly, "Mine. He was supposed to be mine." Vienna in late autumn. Golden leaves covered the stone path of the music academy. I stood by the window of the piano room, watching the ginkgo leaves fall outside the window. My right hand unconsciously rubbed the scar on my left wrist. "Excuse me for interrupting." A gentle female voice came from the door. I turned around to see a slender Asian woman standing at the door. Her left arm held a stack of sheet music. Her right arm hung unnaturally at her side. "Lin Qingyun," she bowed slightly. "I am the new visiting professor at the academy. I heard a composer from China was here for an exchange, so I came especially to say hello." I nodded politely. I greeted her back. I had heard that name before. After a car accident 3 years ago, she had lost the dexterity in her right hand, but she created a miracle, performing only with her left hand. "Your melody is very evocative." Lin Qingyun walked to the piano. She opened the sheet music I had just finished with one hand. However, this key change could be a little smoother. Her left hand glided over the keys, playing a fluid melody. I was astonished to find that with just her left hand, she could play complex notes that most people would need both hands to complete. "It's just a habit." Lin Qingyun smiled. Her empty right sleeve swayed. "After the accident, I spent 2 years relearning from scratch. Sometimes, limitations can awaken new possibilities." Her gaze fell on the scar on my wrist, but she quickly and politely looked away. Your hand." Lin Qingyun suddenly spoke. "Was it injured?" I unconsciously covered my wrist. Lin Qingyun didn't ask further. She just placed her left hand on the keys. "Want to try? I can teach you a few small techniques for left hand practice." I hesitantly extended my left hand. As my fingertips touched the keys, Lin Qingyun's hand gently covered mine, guiding my fingers to the right position. "Like this, use your thumb and little finger to control the octave." Her palm was warm and dry, bearing the calluses left from years of practice. I suddenly remembered Su Menjiao's hands, always cold, and carrying a force that wanted to control everything. "You've lost focus." Lin Qingyun's voice pulled me back to reality. "Sorry." I pulled my hand back. "I am not very used to physical contact with others." Lin Qingyun nodded in understanding. "Music is the best way to communicate." She pulled a manuscript from the stack of sheet music. "This is an etude I rearranged. It's a gift for you, if you're interested. I am free on Wednesday afternoons." I took the sheet music. The dense notes on the paper showed the owner's dedication. "Thank you," I heard myself say. Think about it." After Lin Qingyun left, I stayed alone in the piano room until late at night. I tried playing using the method she taught me. The simple melody was still awkward, but it was more fluid than I had imagined. The next day's storm came unexpectedly. I didn't have an umbrella, standing at the academy gate. As I was hesitating, a black umbrella was held out in front of me. "I am going your way." Lin Qingyun had appeared beside me without me noticing. "I live not far from you." In the curtain of rain, the two of us shared an umbrella. Walking through the old streets of Vienna. "Why did you come to Vienna?" she suddenly asked. I looked at the city's blurry outline in the rain. "Because no one knows me here." "Well, now you do." Lin Qingyun's voice held a hint of a smile. "An audience member, a friend." The following Wednesday afternoons became our regular music time. Lin Qingyun taught me left-hand piano techniques, and I helped her revise her new compositions. We discovered our aesthetic tastes were surprisingly similar. We often discussed a single note until late at night. At the Academy's concert a month later, Lin Qingyun invited me to perform with her. When the curtain fell, the applause was thunderous. Lin Qingyun suddenly turned to me and whispered in a voice only I could hear, "Look, I told you, music never abandons anyone." I looked at the sparkling lights and the smiling faces of the audience below the stage. For the first time, I felt the wounds in my heart beginning to heal. At the celebration party after the concert, Lin Qingyun was surrounded by musicians. I stood alone in a corner, but I no longer felt lonely. What are you thinking about? Lin Qingyun had come to my side at some point. She handed me a glass of juice. I was thinking, I said, taking the glass. Perhaps an imperfection is really another kind of beginning. Lin Qingyun's gaze softened. In that case, would you like to compose with this imperfect pianist? I have a new idea. The night wind blew, carrying the sound of an accordion from a distant cafe. I realized I was starting to look forward to. The next Wednesday afternoon, the downpour washed over the prison's iron gates. When Su Menjiao walked out carrying a flimsy luggage bag, there was no one there to pick her up. 3 years had etched deep marks on her face. She was just over 30, but her temples were already gray. She stood at the bus stop, looking at the news page she had just searched for on her phone. My picture, shown on the screen. The headline read, Chinese music producer Lu Huai, honored with the Grammy for Best Classical Composition. In the photo, I stood on the awards stage. A moss green suit accentuated my tall figure. On the ring finger of my left hand was a uniquely designed ring. Su Menjiao zoomed in on the photo and discovered the ring was shaped like a small musical note. Miss, are you getting on or not? The bus driver urged impatiently. Su Menjiao put her phone away. As the bus passed through the city center, she saw the once towering Su Group building. It had a new sign. The glass wall reflected her distorted figure. Late at night, Su Menjiao reviewed the past 5 years, all the short news clips she had collected about me. I was teaching at the Vienna Academy of Music, serving as the ambassador for children's music education. I bought a villa in Salzburg last year. Every piece of news was like a knife twisting in her heart. Su Menjiao's knuckles turned white from clenching her fists. Her Huai, the Huai who only had eyes for her, now belonged to the whole world. 3 days later, she stood in the last row of the Vienna Golden Hall. My new work, Breaking the Cocoon, was being premiered. I stood at the conductor's podium. My white suit was like condensed moonlight. When the final note fell, the entire hall rose to their feet and applauded. A tall woman from the orchestra section walked onto the stage. She naturally put her arm around my shoulder and said something in my ear, making me laugh. Su Menjiao's vision blurred with red. That woman wore the same musical note ring on her left hand as I did, but her right hand hung stiffly at her side. She recognized her from the news articles, the pianist who was disabled in a car accident but created a miracle. Lin Qingyun. At the cocktail party after the performance, Su Menjiao blended in with the catering staff. Watching me laugh and chat happily with musicians from all over the world, I radiated a kind of aura that Su Menjiao had never seen before. Mr. Lu, may I ask, what was the inspiration for your new piece? A reporter asked. I swirled the wine in my glass. My gaze swept across the crowd. It paused briefly in the corner where Su Menjiao was hiding, then moved on indifferently. It comes from all the moments of breaking and rebirth in my life. Lin Qingyun appeared beside me just then. She very naturally took the wine glass from my hand. It's time to take your medicine. The doctor told you not to drink too much. Su Menjiao watched as Lin Qingyun put a coat on me. Her long, slender fingers rested on my shoulder for a moment. That was supposed to be her place. Right. Sour bile rose in her stomach as if about to burst from her throat. She stumbled out of the party room and vomited violently in the bathroom. Su Menjiao frantically called the phone number she remembered, but only heard a message that the number did not exist. 3 a.m. She drunkenly stormed into an internet cafe and typed Lin Qingyun and Lu Huai into the search bar. Countless articles immediately appeared on the screen. Piano genius Lin Qingyun reunites with composer Lu Huai. Music world's soulmate couple, Lin Qingyun and Lu Huai. Exclusive interview. Lu Huai's miraculous left-hand arrangement for Lin Qingyun. He gave me a second life. Su Menjiao slammed her fist into the screen. Blood oozed from her knuckles. At the same time, in a villa on the outskirts of Vienna, I was discussing a new piece of music with Lin Qingyun in the piano room. This key change is handled beautifully. Lin Qingyun demonstrated with her left hand on the keys, but if we add a little sustain. I smiled and nodded, marking the sheet music. Our two rings shone together under the light. A shadow flashed past the window. Su Menjiao stood in the darkness of the garden, watching this warm scene through the window, her nails dug deep into her palms. She had thought she would be furious, would be frantic, but what filled her chest now was an unprecedented emptiness. The person who would cry for her, laugh for her, the me who endured all harm for her, was completely gone. The me of today had the vast sea and sky in my eyes, but there was no room for her. Late at night, I was mixing a new song in my studio. The phone rang suddenly. The screen displayed Social Welfare Center. Hello, Mr. Lu. Sorry to bother you. The girl on the other end spoke in a formulaically polite tone. It's about Su Yi. Since being adopted, she has been refusing to eat. She has now been hospitalized for treatment. The psychologist suggests. I have already signed away my guardianship rights. I cut her off. My fingers unconsciously rubbed the scar on my wrist. Please handle it according to procedure. I hung up the phone. I stared at the musical notes on the computer screen, but they distorted into Suye's crying face. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, unable to press down. Need any help? Lin Qingyun's voice came from the door. I forced a smile. It's nothing. Just the social welfare center calling again. Lin Qingyun placed a coffee on the table. Her gaze swept over the tense corner of my mouth. Is it about that child again? I lifted my coffee cup. The rising steam hid my slightly red eyes. She's not adapting well to her new adoptive family. She's on a hunger strike, but that's no longer my responsibility. Lin Qingyun didn't answer right away. She went to the window and looked at the city's blurry outline in the rain. Iv contacted a child psychologist in Zurich. He will go to the orphanage tomorrow to check on the situation. My head snapped up. It's not for you. Lin Qingyun turned around, a gentle smile playing on her lips. The charity fund is expanding its music therapy project for children. This is a very good case study. I knew she was lying. That psychologist was the most famous child trauma therapist in Europe, not someone a charity fund could possibly afford. But I said nothing. I just gently took Lin Qingyun's left hand, feeling the calluses in her palm. At the same time, in a rehabilitation center, Ji Mingxuan was adjusting his neck brace in front of a mirror. The unexpected car accident 5 years ago had left him paralyzed, but he was lucky to have survived. The man in the mirror was no longer the glamorous pianist of the past. His hollow cheeks and cloudy eyes made him look like an old man nearing death. Miss Su, I've long admired you. Ji Mingxuan looked at the woman who had just entered, a twisted smile on his face. Su Menjiao was much thinner than 5 years ago. Prison life had carved deep wrinkles at the corners of her eyes, but the obsession in her eyes had not diminished. You said you had a way for me to see Lu Huai. Su Menjiao got straight to the point. Her voice was as hoarse as sandpaper. What's the condition? Ji Mingxuan used his still functional right hand to push a photo forward. In the photo was a scene of Lin Qingyun and me embracing after the concert. The musical note rings on our ring fingers were incredibly dazzling under the camera flashes. The glamorous appearance of the people in the photo pierced Ji Mingxuan's eyes. I want them to be like me, Ji Mingxuan said through gritted teeth. Exactly like me. Su Menjiao stared at the photo, her eyes dark. Ji Mingxuan gave a triumphant smile and slowly read out an address. Late at night 3 days later, the fire alarm in my studio suddenly went off. Lin Qingyun was revising sheet music in the piano room next door. She immediately rushed out when she heard the alarm. Thick smoke was seeping from under the studio door. Flames licked at the curtains, painting the whole space a brilliant orange. Lu Huai! Lin Qingyun screamed, but she choked on the smoke. I am in here. My voice came from the storage room. The original manuscripts are still in here. Without hesitation, Lin Qingyun took off her coat, covered her nose and mouth, and plunged into the sea of fire. The storage room door was warped by the high temperature. She rammed it open with her shoulder and saw me desperately trying to save the yellowed manuscripts on the shelf. Those were the original copies of all my compositions over the years, including the score for Hawaii GE that Ji Mingxuan had plagiarized. Let's go. Lin Qingyun grabbed me. Her other hand swept the remaining music off the shelf. Just as we were about to rush out the door, a burning beam suddenly broke and fell, aiming straight for my head. Lin Qingyun shoved me hard, but she herself was hit hard on the back by the beam. The flames immediately engulfed her right arm. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. Lin Qingyun, I screamed and rushed forward, using my coat to beat out the flames on her. The sound of fire truck sirens grew closer, but my world was reduced to Lin Qingyun's face, contorted in pain, and the charred hand that had protected my sheet music. It was completely burned. The hospital corridor lights were dazzlingly white. I sat on a bench outside the operating room. My hands were covered in dried blood and powder from the fire extinguisher. The police had come to take my statement. The cameras showed it was deliberate arson, but the suspect wore a mask and a hat, making them difficult to identify. The light in the operating room finally went out. The lead surgeon came out. His expression was grave. 30% of her body is burned, mainly her right arm and back. Although her left hand was saved, the nerve damage is severe, I am afraid. My ears were ringing. I couldn't hear a single word the doctor said after that. When Lin Qingyun was wheeled out, I almost didn't recognize the person covered in bandages. The beeping of the monitor in the hospital room sounded like a cruel countdown. I gently held the only one of Lin Qingyun's fingertips not covered in bandages. It still bore the calluses from playing the piano. Why? My voice was choked, unable to form words. That worthless sheet music wasn't worth. Lin Qingyun slowly opened her eyes. Her lips, pale with pain, tried to form a smile. It wasn't just for the music. My tears finally broke free. I leaned down and gently rested my forehead on Lin Qingyun's shoulder. Outside the window, Su Menjiao stood in the shadow of a tree. Watching this scene through the hospital room's glass, police sirens suddenly blared nearby. Su Menjiao warily turned and left. As she passed a trash can, she hesitated for a moment. In the end, she still stuffed the burnt page of music into her bag. In the hospital corridor, I stood by the window. My phone screen lit up with an unknown number. I hesitated for 2 seconds before answering. Dad. On the other end came Su Yis' deliberately lowered voice. I saw you on the news. Are you okay? My fingers tightened unconsciously, my nails digging into my palm. Through the glass window of the hospital room, I could see the profile of Lin Qingyun's sleeping face, her chest rising and falling faintly beneath the bandages. I am fine. My voice was calm, almost cold. You shouldn't have made this call. I was so worried. Her voice was laced with sobs. Mom, listen. I cut her off, my gaze falling on the scar on my wrist. Your adoptive parents are good people. Forget the past. Live a good life. Without waiting for a reply, I decisively hung up the phone and added the number to my block list. When I turned around, I saw that Lin Qingyun was awake. She was looking at me with those gentle eyes. Maybe you could be a little gentler with her. Lin Qingyun's voice was hoarse from respiratory damage. I walked to her bedside and gently took her unburned left hand. Gentleness would only let her continue to harbor illusions. I bowed my head and kissed her fingertips. Some relationships must be completely severed. 3 days later, the press conference room at the Vienna State Opera was packed. I walked onto the stage dressed in black. The musical note ring on my left ring finger glistened under the camera flashes. Thank you all for coming. My voice was clear and calm, while a mess. Lin Qingyun is still fighting through her pain. I am forced to stand up. I pressed the remote. The screen switched to a surveillance video. In the footage, a younger me was practicing the piano in a room. The camera was clearly hidden in a gap in the wall mural. This was 10 years ago, when, unbeknownst to me, Su Menjiao installed surveillance cameras. I explained calmly. Similar devices were in every corner of the places we once lived together. A murmur rose from the reporters' section. A stir. The images kept changing. The bedroom, the bathroom, the dressing room. Every private space was under 24/7 surveillance. The most chilling part was a nighttime video clip. Su Menjiao sat by the edge of the bed while I was sound asleep. She lovingly caressed my hair. I continued to play a recording from the hospital. It clearly recorded the conversation between Su Menjiao and Su Yi, their choice to save Ji Mingxuan first, instead of saving me, who was severely injured. When the words "save Ji Mingxuan first" rang out in the quiet hall, someone took a sharp, cold breath. Because of this choice, my right hand permanently lost the ability to play. I raised my right hand. The scar appeared hauntingly under the glaring lights, and just 3 days ago, that very same person set fire to my studio, causing Miss Lin Qingyun to suffer severe burns, just because she couldn't accept me having a new life. Suddenly, a commotion came from the back of the hall. A woman in a baseball cap pushed past the guards, rushing in and screaming, "Lu Huai." Su Menjiao's crazed scream tore through the air. "I did all of this because I love you. You can't treat me like this." I stood perfectly still, not moving an inch. My gaze was as sharp as a knife, stabbing straight into the woman who once made my life a living hell. Su Menjiao frantically rushed forward. "You're mine, forever mine." The police quickly restrained her, as she was pinned to the ground. Su Menjiao kept screaming, "Huai, look at me." I slowly walked down from the stage, stopping 2 meters away from her. I looked down at this teary-eyed woman. There was no hatred in my eyes, only a deep wariness. "Your love is like acid." I softly called Su Menjiao's name. Besides the scars, it leaves nothing behind. Amidst the sharp click of handcuffs, Su Menjiao was dragged out of the hall. Her cries echoed in the corridor for a long time, like a funeral dirge that was forever out of tune. After the press conference ended, I returned to the hospital. Beside Lin Qingyun's hospital bed was a bouquet of white hyacinths. The card on it read, "Get well soon." The child was here. I picked up the card. Lin Qingyun nodded. The nurse said she insisted on visiting me, but she was refused. So she stood at the door for 3 hours. I put the card back and walked to the window. I closed the curtains. "Did the press conference go well?" Lin Qingyun asked. I took off my coat, revealing a fresh bruise on my left arm. It was from when Su Menjiao bumped into me while struggling before being dragged away. "Very well." I gently took Lin Qingyun's uninjured hand. "It's over. It's all over." Lin Qingyun gently rubbed my knuckles with her thumb, touching the music note ring. "No. This is the beginning." Outside the window, the first snowflake silently fell. I leaned over and gently hugged Lin Qingyun, careful to avoid the wound on her back. Spring arrived quietly. I stood by the window of the Music Academy's piano room, watching the first hyacinth bloom in the courtyard. Lin Qingyun's rehabilitation was going very well. "Professor Liu, you have a package." My teaching Assistant knocked gently on the door, handing over a craft paper parcel. There was no sender's information on the package. I opened the package. Inside was a handwritten letter and a child's drawing. The drawing showed 3 stick figures standing next to a piano. The shortest one was colored yellow. Dear Dad, Dr. Chen said, writing a letter might be better than calling. I am sorry for crying and making a fuss before. My new parents are very nice. They took me to a concert. I am learning piano now too, even though I am not very good yet. I hope Aunt Lynn's hand gets better soon. I really like the metronome she gave me. Love, Yi. My finger gently brushed over the word love. The ink was slightly smudged, as if it had been wet by tears. I put the letter and drawing back into the envelope, and took out a gold-gilded ticket from the drawer. An invitation to Lin Qingyun's advanced piano masterclass next week. I wrote Su Yi's adoptive parents' address on an envelope, and enclosed the invitation, but I didn't leave any message. At the same time, at a high-end nursing home on the outskirts of Zurich, Ji Mingxuan was looking in the mirror. After 5 years of being paralyzed, the right side of his face was still as stiff as a mask. But today was a special day. That tabloid reporter had agreed to pay $50,000 to buy the Su family scandals he held. Mr. Ji, it's time for your medicine. A nurse pushed open the door and entered, carrying a medicine tray. Ji Mingxuan impatiently waved his hand. Just leave it there. I'll take it later. He adjusted his wig in the mirror. I have a visitor today. Don't disturb me. After the nurse left, Ji Mingxuan took a craft paper bag from under his pillow. Inside were all the scandals of the Su family that he had collected over the years. Evidence of financial fraud, commercial bribery records. There was even the attempted murder case involving Su Mengjiao's mother years ago. This stuff was enough to destroy the last shred of the Su family's honor. It was his final trump card for revenge. The doorbell rang. Ji Mingxuan struggled to maneuver his electric wheelchair to the door. He saw that the person outside was not the reporter he had an appointment with, but a strange woman in a white coat. Hello, Mr. Ji. The woman smiled and showed her id. I am the new doctor here for your routine checkup. Ji Mingxuan warily backed away. No one informed me that my doctor was changing. Professor Hans had an emergency. Without another word, the woman pushed his wheelchair back to the bed. Please cooperate with the examination. It will be quick. 20 minutes later, a nurse found Ji Mingxuan collapsed by the edge of his bed. Pills were scattered all over the floor. He was no longer breathing. The police preliminarily determined it was an accidental overdose, but there was a small note on the autopsy report. Under the deceased's fingernails, a small amount of skin tissue not belonging to the victim was found. But because Ji Mingxuan was mentally unstable and often scratched the nurses, this note was ultimately not paid any attention. 3 days later, Lin Qingyun's piano masterclass was held at the Vienna Academy of Music. I sat in the last row, looking at the stage, where the woman with the left hand was gliding over the keys. During the intermission, a staff member quietly approached. Mr. Liu, there's a child in the front row who wants to see you, she said. I looked in the direction he pointed. Su Yi was wearing a small suit, standing anxiously in the aisle. Compared to the last time we met, she had grown quite a bit taller. There was less fear in her eyes, and a bit more brightness. Let her focus on the class, I said softly. Bring her backstage when it's over. The second half of the performance began. Lin Qingyun performed a rearranged version of Huai Ji. After the performance ended, in the backstage corridor, I met Su Yi, who was brought by her adoptive parents. She shyly handed me a bouquet of white hyacinths. This is for Aunt Lin. Wishing her a speedy recovery, I took the flowers and gently patted her head. How was the playing? It was wonderful. Su Yi's eyes lit up. Aunt Lin said, if I practice hard, I can enter the youth competition next year. Seeing her excited expression, I saw myself from many years ago, touching a piano for the first time. Some passions are ultimately passed down through blood. Mr. Liu, her adoptive mother, began hesitantly. Dr. Chen said, YI has an amazing sense of perfect pitch. We were wondering if Miss Lin, when she's free, next Sunday at 3 p.m., I said without hesitation. I'll send you the studio address. I didn't say that. This was a decision Lin Qingyun and I had already discussed, nor did I make any further promises. But, as I watched Su Yi's skipping figure disappear, the scar on my wrist seemed to hurt a little less. At the celebration party that evening, Lin Qingyun raised a glass of champagne. To music, to all beings. I gently clinked glasses with her, and glanced at the TV, which was showing a news brief. Former pianist Ji Mingxuan dies in an accident, aged 32. The image flashed by quickly, not catching anyone's attention. Under the dome of the Golden Hall, I stood on the conductor's podium. The tails of my black tuxedo followed my movements, rippling like water. When the final note fell, the entire hall was silent for a second, then erupted into thunderous applause. In the front row, Lin Qingyun applauded enthusiastically. The music note ring on her left hand reflected a warm light. My eyes met hers, and we exchanged a knowing smile. Ladies and gentlemen, The host announced emotionally, "Let's once again give it up for Mr. Lu Huai, the first person this century to win dual awards in both composition and conducting for a male artist. Please offer your warmest applause." Amidst the cheers, I gave a slight bow. The me from 10 years ago, the one trapped in a gilded cage, probably never dreamed this day would come. At the post-performance press conference, "Mr. Lu, how did you decide to switch to conducting?" a reporter asked. I looked at my disabled wrist. Music has never been limited by the body, just like a bird will not give up flying because it loses a feather. I paused for a moment. Actually, it was Miss Lin Qingyun who helped me understand that imperfections can create new possibilities. The cameras turned to Lin Qingyun, who was sitting beside me. She raised her left hand and mimed playing the piano, drawing a round of good-natured laughter. "There are rumors that you're preparing to establish a foundation for disabled musicians." "That's right," I nodded. At that moment, a familiar little figure peeked out from backstage. Su Wai was now 12 years old, wearing a small suit, and holding a bouquet of white hyacinths. When she saw the reporter's cameras turn towards her, she shyly hid herself. Just then, a sharp-eyed reporter noticed my expression had softened considerably. A young music lover, I didn't say much, but the gentleness in my eyes said it all. After the press conference ended, Su Yi trotted over and handed me the flowers. "Dad, ah no, Uncle Lu, the performance was amazing." I took the flowers and gave her a gentle hug. "Thank you for coming." I turned to Lin Qingyun. "Are you ready for your piano class next week?" Su Yi nodded excitedly. "My adoptive parents said, if I keep improving, I can audition for the Music Academy's affiliated middle school next year." Looking at her sparkling eyes, I remembered myself at 12, sitting before a piano with the same passion. I don't know what storms the future holds, but for now, at least this child wouldn't have to follow my tragic path. At the same time, at a psychiatric hospital on the Austrian border, a gaunt woman was curled up in a corner. Sunlight shone through the iron bars, casting mottled shadows on the ground. She stared intently at an old newspaper clipping taped to the wall. It was the news of my first award. "The picture is of a Huai," Su Menjiao mumbled. Her bony fingers caressed the familiar yet strange face in the newspaper. "See, I told you long ago, you are the best." A nurse approached and expertly took the newspaper away. "Miss Su, it's time for your medicine." Su Menjiao suddenly lunged, but was restrained by her straitjacket. "Give me back my Huai. He's my husband." "He's mine," the nurse sighed, and injected a sedative into her arm. This scene played out several times a week. Her medical record noted paranoid schizophrenia, accompanied by hallucinatory disorder. But the nurses all whispered among themselves that this was a woman driven mad by her own obsession. The medication slowly took effect. Su Menjiao slumped to the floor, her mind's eye conjured the image of when we first met, the 18-year-old boy standing in the Su family living room. Sunlight streaming through the silk curtains cast a golden halo around me. At that time, she was standing on the stairs. It was clearly love at first sight, but she had to pretend to be disdainful and indifferent. If only she could have been a little more honest at the beginning. If only she could have loved in a normal way at the beginning. Tears blurred her vision. The me in the newspaper seemed to be smiling at her. Su Menjiao reached out a trembling finger, but the moment it made contact, she found it was just a piece of cold paper. At the celebration party in the Golden Hall, I had my arm linked with Lin Qingyun's, chatting with international music masters. My German was so fluent that it was indistinguishable from a native's. My words exuded calmness and wisdom. "Any plans for what's next?" a French conductor asked. Lin Qingyun and I looked at each other and smiled. "We're planning a trip to Iceland, to listen to the sound of melting ice. They say it's the purest, natural music." When the party ended, a light drizzle was falling from the night sky. Lin Qingyun took off her coat to shield me from the rain. The two of us huddled together as we walked towards the car. Just before getting in, I suddenly turned my head to look back at the city lights, blurry in the rain. "What's wrong?" Lin Qingyun asked. I shook my head and got into the car. I thought I heard someone call my name just now, but it was probably just the wind. The car slowly pulled away from the Golden Hall, carrying us towards a sky that was no longer overcast,